What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Aminé's third album, 13 Months of Sunshine. This is the follow-up to Aminé's last solo work, 2.5, the mixtape from 2021. Most recently overall, though, of course, was Aminé's collab album with producer Kate Aminé. I found Kate Aminé to be a big letdown overall. I actually didn't think Aminé held up his end of the bargain in terms of just delivering good rap verses over Kate production. That was probably my biggest letdown of 2023 musically. I've always been a Aminé fan ever since the breakout, several years ago at this point with Sweet Caroline. He's been at it for a long time. I saw him live a few years back as well, and always looking forward to hearing more from him. The coolest thing about Aminé's third album, 13 Months of Sunshine, is that it sounds like Aminé once again taking a step forward musically and continuing to grow into his very now diversified sound. Of course, rapping is still his bread and butter, and he has a lot of flows and great technique on this, but he also is doing a fair amount of singing now and is also increasingly at home on more dancier, up-tempo productions. So he's really delivering a lot. I still find a lot of the more R&B leaning singing style stuff for Aminé to be his weakest type of music. Certainly he's given you crossover stuff before. It's also a lot of fun production choices here and mixing choices in terms of changing up Aminé's vocals on this. Long album, a lot to go through, but I think there's a lot of the things to take away from it, and it's probably the most diverse sounding Aminé album to this point. Track 1, New Flower, is a highlight for me, featuring Leon Thomas of Mutt fame. I love the glitchy mix they do overall on this. Sounds pretty cool and interesting. Track 3, Sage Time, is definitely one of my highlights. It's very dancey and has a bit of Aminé singing, but I do think it works overall. Although I gotta say the chorus is the most absurd J. Cole-ass line ever. Ridiculous stuff. After I nut, it's like a drug to me is absurd lyrics, but here we are. I think this song actually sounds pretty cool. Cool about it, I think this one is probably the most experimental track here that doesn't really work. I think vocally it's just off. The layering, production-wise, is just way too dense. There's this fun production with the bouncy keys, but I just don't think the sound really comes together. It's just way too messy of a track for me. Vacay, one of my highlights for sure. Great flow. I love that chopped up beat over the drum tempo. The I Want to Go on Vacay, auto-tune hook from Aminé, I think sounds tremendous. Familiar is a shorter one, but again, some fun auto-tune choices here again, and it's a break beat with these glitchy, short-circuiting style vibe. I think that one works as well. 13 Months is quite good. It's one of the rap showcases. Has a big switch up halfway through though, and it's a completely different flow in the second half of the track. I think the first half more overall. Arc de Triomphe, one of the lead singles, I think is just a kind of a classic Aminé banger. Great flow from him, very up tempo. That's a fun one. Images is another interesting one to me because I feel it's a bit on the messier side of things, but it has a 4/5/4 feature that I think fits the song very well. You have some Toro y Moi production as well. Interesting track, doesn't completely work for me, but again, I like the chances being taken, and I like the decision making to try lots of different stuff here. I think lyrically, Aminé also is getting deeper and more personal, introspective. Reflecting on relationships in his life, but also some kind of personal demons that he finds from time to time in terms of fighting off depression and things of that nature. He also continues to have a lot of reverence from where he's from, where his parents are from, which comes across in the music as well. I think more than anything, he remains he's kind of singular rapper at this point, which is again not something you probably would have thought of when he broke out at a very young age, with Caroline. And obviously, there's been very, very various iterations of what Aminé's sound is to this point. I think 13 Months of Sunshine is really kind of distilling that variety down in a more accessible way. So even if I don't love all the directions that he goes down, again, I think a lot of the R&B stuff just doesn't really work all that much. I just don't think the singing is consistent enough. The fact that he is confident in this broad range now at this point makes him pretty interesting and engaging, and the music is never predictable, which is a lot of fun as well. Thinking back on my favorite era of Aminé in terms of the songs I like the most, I probably still like Limbo the most, but this is certainly up there. And again, the dancey stuff on this is a lot better than the dancey stuff on Kate Aminé, which is, again, in retrospect, makes Kate Aminé feel even more of a letdown because we knew he had it in him. I don't know why that one didn't come together the way it did. But 13 Months of Sunshine, I think, is a success for Aminé. Again, 16 tracks, 50 minutes. There's actually a good amount here, especially with the genre switch ups, production changes, various vocal decision making. There's actually a lot to dig into with this album, despite it actually not being an hour long. So a lot to revisit for sure. Let me know, though, what'd you think of Aminé's third album, 13 Months of Sunshine? What'd you like most about it? And for more music reviews, more rap reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.